Hey everybody, it's Mike Jeffers, ChicagoJazz.com, and this is episode 84 of Jazz This Week, live at Johnny O's here in Bridgeport, and Michele Thomas stopped by. We're going to be talking about her gigs coming up, Chicago Firehouse, Evanston Pete Millers, Evanston, I knew I could say it correctly, plus my 3 picks of the week, so stick around. All right, we are back, episode 84, Jazz This Week. I'm Mike Jeffers. Michele Thomas came down and joined me. We are at Johnny O's live here in Bridgeport, where we film it every week. This is a Chicago-style jazz show with Chicago-style hot dogs right on the corner of 35th and Morgan. Michele, what do you think of the palatial studios I have here for the Jazz This Week? Is this where you would think a jazz show would be filmed?
I mean, man, not normally, but I'm digging it. I'm digging it.
She's speechless. That's what I like.
Without words.
All right, we're going to talk a little bit. Now, you have shows coming up at the end of the month, and we're going to get into that. She's at Evanston in Pete Miller's in Evanston.
Yep.
2 nights, and then she's also at the Chicago Firehouse, which is right down the street over here on South Michigan Avenue. We're going to talk all about that. But first, Michele and I have known each other for a very long time. We haven't played with each other in a long, long time because she married a drummer, and that basic, sorry, Darren, cuts me out of the gig. But I think we first met at Big Joe's jam session, wasn't it?
Yes, we were little.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. Big Joe's, God. So that was like back in the late 90s, I want to say?
Yeah,
is that right?
yeah, no, definitely. Big Joe's. I just love that place.
Now, that's kind of around the time that you, I don't know, you tell me, when did you start getting into jazz? Because I think that was kind of your first experience in live performance for jazz.
It was my first time out on the Chicago scene, honestly. I had just gotten out of college and was looking for places, jam sessions, and just trying to learn what that even meant to be a jam session.
Yeah, right.
And it just so happened that I didn't live very far from Big Joe's, but it was such a roundabout way that I even found out about the jam session because I was... I think I had a friend from junior college. I went to Triton for a little while. And
where'd you go after Triton?
After Triton, I went to North Park University.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you stayed in the area, though. You
stayed
in town.
Yeah, pretty much stayed in the area. And it was through a friend from Triton that told me about the jam session near me in Chicago. And I'm like, what is this jam session? And here's this great, just very homey little jazz session at this total neighborhood dive. It's not even a jazz club, not a music venue, nothing. And some of my most fondest memories, what I loved about it was just Big Joe and the fact that he's there and he would transform this little place into a jazz club once a week on Sunday.
You obviously probably started singing when you were really young.
Yeah.
What style of music was that? How did you kind of get into the jazz stuff?
Yeah, no, I came up, I always say I have the typical American story. My dad was a preacher. I came up singing in church choirs. Jazz, kind of got introduced to me by high school, but I really honestly feel like it was even before that because I feel like for at least my generation of musicians, and especially coming up with gospel at that time, I was coming up with Andre Crouch and the Winans. I felt like I was already hearing those influences before I even legitimately got into jazz.
Yeah.
So it was kind of leading in that direction for me. And once I got to high school, there was a jazz band there, and I decided I was going to try out and do some singing for them, and that was kind of the beginning of it.
Yeah. So did you major in music at North Park?
I majored in music, yeah.
Okay, so is that kind of where you got more of a formal jazz training? Was it jazz studies, or was it just like music major?
No, and then I say also in college, Joe Lill, who's a trumpet player there, was my
Joel,
jazz study. He was my jazz studies program at that time. So I have individual people like just giving me my entire education on jazz. And just working with the jazz band there, also playing piano, and just really learning the in and outs of just being a good musician. Like Joe really showed me what it was going to be like to really get out on the scene.
Joe's awesome.
Consummate.
He's awesome, and he's a big fan of Chicago Jazz Magazine as well. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
Your music, right? So she was featured at the Chicago Jazz Festival this summer, and that was the Michele Thomas Quartet, or was it the
Quintet? Yeah,
Quintet. But Soul Meme, right? project that you put together a year ago, maybe?
Yeah, a couple of years ago now.
A couple of years ago?
Yeah.
And to me, I've heard some of the stuff, and that's like a melding of all these different styles, right?
Yeah.
So how did that band come about?
That's really, I think, what led to it. It was a lot of those discussions talking about just our generational influences and really trying to get back to the basics and just the meat and potatoes of just music in terms of talking about soulfulness in music, talking about the propagation of that through our culture and through our society. And that helped us kind of put the name together. But really, I wanted that group to really be able to demonstrate and experiment and explore more with the contemporary side, with the R&B, with all these things, and really bring it together still in this progression of jazz, in this progression of the music, and just bringing all my influences into it as well. It was really an opportunity for me. It is continuing to be an opportunity for me to what is coming out of my gospel background, what is coming out of the R&B, what is coming out of the soul, what are those things that kind of meld together and create this almost new thing to really perform. And I just needed that outlet, really.
Because you've been known as Michele Thomas, the jazz singer, when you're out on the scene, right? So it's the Michele Thomas Quartet or Trio. Quartet, right? Which is at Evanston, Pete Miller's Evanston, at the Chicago Firehouse. It's the Michele Thomas Quartet.
Yeah.
So this soul meme actually kind of gives you the license to not worry about that and just go mix everything in, right?
Absolutely. Well, it gives a direction to at least giving an idea to people. It's just like, well, what type of jazz? Because, I mean, when we're even talking about that and how huge that umbrella is, just when we were having a discussion right before, and we have eras of that. And it's like it's important to recognize it and to kind of be able to acknowledge these different movements in jazz history. So, it's just a kind of way to say, okay, this project is devoted to that. It's devoted to this more contemporary side of jazz and from 90s until now, you know. And the players that I have in it are our main players who we've worked with: Neil Alger on guitar, currently Clark Summers on bass, who we've been working with
while he's in town.
Yeah, while he's in town. It was Bob Lavecchio prior to that, with Darren Scores on drums. We've been working with a great pianist named Matt Nelson.
Sure, Matt.
And all of these cats, I love them so much because of their just expansive, just versatility. Yeah. And it comes down to their overall musicianship, the love, the soul they put into no matter what the music is. And that made it so much fun. I wanted to really specifically work with them when I put this project together.
I think, and I know all of those guys, and I know a lot of the different groups they've played with. I mean, Matt played with Lupe Fiasco, and I mean Clark's with Kurt Elling, and Neil's played with everybody in the world, and Patricia Barber and everybody else, and Darren's played with all these different rock and funk bands and all that stuff. But I think you guys are all on the same wavelength, right?
Exactly.
So it's like you guys have been playing together for a long enough time, but then you can get together and just not worry about mixing up grooves, adding this in, doing whatever, and that's the key, is to having that open-mindedness and the like-mindedness at the same time.
It's a beautiful alchemy. It's just we have.
Sometimes it's hard to find, especially when you want to get into the higher-end players.
Sure.
But I think that as we talked, I think it's that thing where people are starting to open up their minds now, and all of a sudden they're like, I think a lot of those guys, even the older dudes, dig some stuff that they say they don't, but I think they do secretly, and you know who you are. Although I have a feeling that it's the Michele Thomas Quartet. I have a feeling you're going to mix in some soul meme tunes too. I just have this feeling. Knowing artists, I have this feeling. So let's talk a little bit. So you're up at Evanston. You are in Evanston at Pete Miller's on the 15th and 16th of December. Yeah. And what are the times?
The times are 7 o'clock to 11.
7 to 11, and that's a long time jazz place in Evanston. I mean, it's a great food, but obviously it's a really intimate space too if you get sitting near the band.
I love it because of that. Actually, we've been playing there over the past year, and some wonderful audiences out there, Evanstonians. Evanstonians?
That sounds good to me. I'm just a guy at a hot dog stand. I'm hanging out at a hot dog stand. You're going to impress me, Michele, with any large words. Okay. South Loop, Chicago Firehouse. And Chicago Firehouse just started having live music again, I think in the past 6 months. I didn't even know they were having quartets. I know in the past they've done a little bit of stuff with trios and quartets.
Yeah.
They were closed for a while because of a fire. They reopened maybe a year ago. And now I have come to find out, thanks to Michele, that she's going to be there on the 22nd and 23rd, just before Christmas. But it's with a trio with her singing. So it's like a full quartet, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we actually are going to be doing even more soul meme type of, we're going to be mixing up Christmas music, obviously. Yeah. But bringing in a lot more of the kind of pop and R&B, jazz influenced.
All right, so now we're going to cover even more of Michele's life, and we're going to do the whole podcast and all that on Talking Jazz with Mike Jeffers, the podcast. So check that out. That's going to be dropping later in December or just after the first of the year, where we're going to delve into all of the different influences Michele's had and everything else we need to cover. Although we covered a lot here, so that's good news too. But I've got to get to my 3 picks of the week, because I always have 3 picks of the week. I'm sure you've seen 3 picks of the week.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're a big fan of 3 picks of the week.
Big fan.
The people that are on the 3 picks are very big fans. All right, but you have a pick too.
Yeah.
So why don't we have you do your pick first? So these are, and I got to do my disclaimer because I have to do this disclaimer.
Okay.
You know, I talk to my lawyers. I have a team of lawyers, not really, but you probably think I do.
You're like moving stuff to explain this.
Well, because I'm going to start throwing my arms around. All right, so I have to do this disclaimer. These are my 3 picks of the week. These are good for casual music fans. If you're looking for somewhere to go, someone to see, maybe you're not familiar with a specific club, maybe you want to get out and see some new music, you're not sure if you like bebop, swing, avant-garde. These are 3 picks that I think you can't go wrong with. Of course, these are by no means the only shows that you should see in Chicago. These are my 3 picks. So, of course, get all the information at chicagojazz.com. Now, let's get over to my 3 picks. First one, easy deal. I know you know this guy. Victor Garcia and his quartet. They're going to be at Winter's Jazz Club December 8th. Victor Garcia, incredible trumpeter, plays with everybody. He actually started Cal J, the Chicago Afro-Latin Jazz Ensemble. I'm sure I said that wrong because I'm saying it fast. Cal J, I'll stick with that. Anyways, Victor Garcia, killer. He's going to be at Winter's Jazz Club December 8th, and you can get all the information at wintersjazzclub.com. Now, I forgot, because I got right into it. Michele, you have a pick, and I was completely rude and jumped right into my picks. So go ahead.
Really okay.
Your picks are probably better than mine. All right, go ahead.
My pick for this month is David Sanchez at Jazz Showcase, Joe Siegel's Jazz Showcase. I'm hoping to get down there to see him. It's been a long time since he's been in Chicago, but he's got his quartet down there. Just tremendous saxophonist, more Latin jazz, but I think even more progressive than that. And I guess one of the reasons it's kind of dear to my heart is because I interviewed him for a paper I had in college once.
Oh.
So I'm hoping to go and get to talk to him again and tell him the grade that I got on that paper.
I hope you got an A.
B.
Oh, no. All right, David, if you're watching this, put her on the list. She only got a B. All right, he's coming up in a couple weeks at the Jazz Showcase.
Yeah.
So jazzshowcase.com.
Yeah.
I have one at the Jazz Showcase. I might as well jump into that because that's coming up this weekend. So we're going to do that. But David Sanchez, killer, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Killer.
Absolutely.
I believe he's the weekend after Joey D. Francesco, who I'm going to talk about, right? Joey D's coming in town the 7th through the 10th of December. His trio, they have been together now for 3 years. Same guys, pretty much. It's smoking. I don't need to say anything else. Joey D, Jazz Showcase, December 7th through the 10th. And I also always have to say the disclaimer, or the Save the Children matinee at the Jazz Showcase. If you have any kids that are under 12 and under, they get in free. It's 4 p.m. on Sundays. Joe Siegel's Save the Children, Jazz Showcase, so that's right there in the South Loop. $5 parking right behind the Jazz Showcase in the lot if you're going to the Showcase. You can't be. You've played at the Showcase.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible stage, great space.
Just, the Chicago legend. Gotta go.
Totally. All right, I've got one more pick. Well, I've got 2 more picks. But the third pick of my 3 picks, and then I've got Thaddeus Tukes, which I'm going to give him another plug because he was on the show last week. All right, last pick, Green Mill, Andy Brown, Howard Alden, Quartet. They are there on the 8th and 9th of December. Green Mill, you can't beat that. Andy Brown, I know you've played with Andy Brown probably.
Yeah.
Incredible guitar player. Howard Alden, incredible. So it's going to be swinging. So that's at the Green Mill, the 8th and the 9th. Don't miss that. And now, Thaddeus Tukes. We did a great interview last week, Thaddeus. I'm giving you another plug because it was so awesome. And I know you're going to do an incredible show at Andy's Jazz Club coming up on the 8th and the 9th, the 5 p.m. set, 5 to 8:30. Of course, andysjazzclub.com for all the information. So great job, Thaddeus. All right, of course, thanks for watching. Michelle, we're going to close this out there. We're going to jump in. We're going to do the podcast, Talking Jazz with Mike Jeffers, available on chicagojazz.com, iTunes, Podbean, and Google Play, and everywhere else fine podcasts are listened to. So check that out. Michelle, thanks for coming down to Johnny O's.
Thank you.
Thanks for talking. This was great, man. It was great catching up with you. Of course, everybody can check out more about MichelleThomasMusic.com. And until
Michelle
next...
with one L.
Michelle with one. That's right, Michelle with one. Well, we'll link it up.
Okay.
We'll link it up. All right, now I always have to end the show this way. So, of course, if I don't see you somewhere this weekend, hopefully I will see you somewhere out on the scene.